So who wants to host tonight?
I think I heard you volunteer last week.
Looks like Alex wants to host.
Welcome to the alt. No, I'm just kidding.
That would've been awesome.
I can do the intro. I don't care. That's fine.
Yeah, no, if you want to do it, I don't like.
Yeah, let's have Alex host. I'm gonna go pee real quick and I'll be back.
Okay, so we're gonna start right now.
Yeah.
Yep, that's going in the intro.
Immediately.
Is that enough silence for you, Pete?
Oh yeah.
Welcome to the All Pop No Culture podcast. I am unfortunately your host today, Alex, and I'm joined as usual by Kevin,
Hello.
David,
Hello?
and Peter,
Hello.
who's frozen again. Oh, there you go. You just
Oh,
love
yeah.
free. You're frozen like mid beverage. You're like
It was very phallic too with the
Yeah, it's a
water
little-
bottle. It was really nice.
it's a little.
I'm
I
frozen
love
right
the
now
irony
myself.
that he's
I
the
was
one
saying,
that
yeah,
always
you were
freezes.
frozen.
I know.
He's the one that
Okay.
always freezes, and he works for the internet company.
Begin the show.
Ditch AT&T, man. Get Comcast.
Right.
Wouldn't
I
that be
guess we're-
awkward as an employee if he was just like, "Fuck you guys"?
I'm going to the competitor.
I think
Yeah.
he did.
The competitor that
said
everyone hates
Comcast
more
and
than
you fucking
anyone
left.
else on the planet.
I don't know, man. I feel like AT&T is hated a little more than Comcast, just because AT&T has phones. Like, so a lot of
Hmm.
people have like iPhones and shit calling for customer service, whereas Comcast is a little bit more
They're trying.
specialized.
Though. They've got their Xfinity phone
Of
service
course.
now, and
Of course, but it's
they
not.
have to make answer for all of NBC's terrible programming. They got things.
Of course. Well, everyone shits on everyone these days. It's just the cool
True.
thing
It's
to
the
do,
American way.
including us.
That's
so,
Wait, what are you talking about?
if you've never listened before, I'm not usually the host. If you can't tell already by how much the show is derailed.
Well, I think Pete
It's,
has fully thought that this is being thrown away. So who knows?
And that's why he just bounced. He's
yeah,
just
that's
like,
why he
cool.
just bounced. He's like, "We'll start over," and then
Yeah.
he left.
He's just going to copy paste an Opie intro into the beginning. And
That
then
would be
Opie will
fun.
not be in the rest of the show, and everyone will be like, "What happened?"
What happened to him? Where'd he go?
But we are a pop culture podcast focusing primarily on movies and television, and when we're allowed video games, if mom and dad say it's okay. Tonight we're going to be talking about a few things. Of course, Loki premiered this last week on Wednesday, which is a new special night for people who have been keeping up with Disney Plus programming. Usually it's Friday, but if I'm not mistaken, Bad Batch is still happening on Fridays. So Loki's is on Wednesdays. So we get a double dose of Disney Plus, which is pretty cool. We'll be talking about Loki, of course, and then a few things that we've watched this week. And continuing on with our franchises, we've all picked franchises from a spinning wheel. Some are great, some are bad, some are right in the middle, and we're all kind of plowing through a few of those. So we'll be updating our franchise rankings tonight. But first, let's just talk about anything interesting that we've watched this week. Let's start with Pete. Oh, he's not here. Let's start with Kevin.
Oh, me. Most of it's been like that I've watched this week has been TV coming back. My youngest son is a big Lego kid, and Lego Masters is back on Fox. So if you haven't watched that, it's a really fun Lego building competition show.
I saw an
And,
ad for that, and it was in season 2, which
Yeah,
I'd never even heard of
yeah.
it in season 1, and I was like, this looks awesome.
it's
I knew
really
it
cool.
was in season
It's
1. Who's the host? It's Will Arnett.
Will Arnett, yeah.
Yeah, which makes
Can't
so much
stand
sense.
Will Arnett.
Yeah.
So for me, I was just like, I love Legos, but I hate Will Arnett. So I don't know.
He's
that
very Will Arnett, so he'll drive you a
that's
little
what I
crazy.
figured.
But it's cool, man. I mean, they come up with a challenge, and effectively they give these teams their partners, and they give them many hours. The last one they had 10 hours to build something that's going to explode, but it has to be cool. And I mean, these people are fucking amazing. Like the stuff they can build in 10, 13, 16 hours is really impressive.
Do they
last
The
have
series.
name Lego Masters, right? So one would assume that they
Yeah.
can do this.
Well, I mean,
Do they-
they're just people, but they're judged by two people that are employed by Lego as Lego Masters.
Do they just have a random assortment of bricks, or is it like a preset? Like, here's what you get to work with.
They can
Build X, Y, Z out of this.
Yeah, they can use essentially anything they want.
Okay.
So the whole set there's like a wall of minifigures, so you can pick all your minifigures. It's like a giant, that wall. If you go to the Lego store, there's that wall at the back
yeah.
where there's it's like a huge wall of that.
Like just the
And
different colored and different shapes and all
Yeah.
that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I imagine there's probably a dumpster in the back full of more shit that they can go grab,
Yeah.
because the set's just there to be pretty. But it's super cool. Like I really, if you're a Lego fan, it is a really, really cool show. And Pete may have watched it since he's got kids, but he probably hasn't because he's too cool for his kids. But
What show?
Lego Masters.
I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. It's fun, but I loved what they built. I didn't enjoy Will Arnett as much as I thought I would as the host. It just like he falls a little flat for me. And I love the podcast he's doing with Jason Bateman and what's his bucket? Have you guys listened to that? At all I know, Opie and I listened to it. It's yeah, we can talk about that later. Anyway.
Yeah, we'd hate to go off on a tangent. But yeah, it's really cool. I really enjoy it. I think that one's cool. What else is back? I watched the first couple of episodes of Master Chef. That is back. I've always been a Master Chef fan. I think that was cool. I'm always a Gordon Ramsay fan. He gets so mad and I love it. And they've got celebrity chefs this year. And then
cool.
Fox, they have another cooking show, because apparently all I watched this week is reality shows, called Crime Scene Kitchen. And they have teams of bakers. And the idea is that they get 5 minutes to go into a kitchen where something's already been made. And they have to figure out from what's left after they've cleaned up. And then they have to go and try and make that and then see if they made the right thing. So it's all about this forensic idea. And they're not wildly, intelligent detective people. They're just normal people that happen to be really good chefs or really good bakers is most of it. And it's fun. It's fun to see, it's amazing to me to see that people can come up with some of the stuff that they come up with, because it was like, one was like a princess tort. One was like, it's just all this crazy shit that I've never heard of or have heard of, but wouldn't get from a list of ingredients. And it's pretty amazing how many people actually get it right. It's pretty cool. And that's hosted by Joel from Community, Joel McHale. Yeah. And he's fun. He's cool. And then I haven't watched much for myself. I started watching Lacey's Story on Apple TV because I'm a Stephen King fan, but I haven't got very far into it. I think there's only 1 or 2 episodes so far, and I'm only halfway through the first episode. It definitely starts a little slow. I feel like the slow start is okay if you've read the book. I think it would be a little off-putting if you haven't. So I'm hoping it picks up for those people that haven't read the book.
I would say, I'm assuming you have read the book, as you've read most of them.
Yeah, I've read everything. I think I'm in the middle of one of his last couple of most recent ones, which is a book of short stories. But
which one?
If It Bleeds.
Yeah, that's the one I'm in right now. I have been moving through it slowly.
Yeah, I'm actually in the story If It Bleeds at the moment.
Oh, yeah. I think I made it through 3. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Is that a short story about Jesse the Body Ventura during the filming of Predator?
That's almost exactly what it's about. But it's actually a continuation of the Holly Gibney character from the Mr. Mercedes series.
Yeah.
Which actually, if you have, I haven't watched the most recent season of that, but if you're a Stephen King fan and you have cable, that is not cable, but it was on a specific
Is it on
DirecTV.
Stars?
No, yeah, I think it wasn't even DirecTV. It was something really funky. You had to have
It was
some
like it
carrier.
started on the DirecTV channel, and then it turned into an AT&T channel.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Because AT&T took over DirecTV and really
Mhm.
kind of made it known at that point. So it was like AT&T Direct Channel or something like that.
Yeah, and it was
I
super
watched
weird.
that whole show. That was excellent.
Yeah, they did an amazing job on that, especially I think that is probably the most faithful adaptation of one of his series of books in a long time. Plus,
They do it out of order though, but
a little bit.
Well, because they do 1, 3, 2. They do the books out of order, but it's still really quite excellently done.
I think they did him out of I was gonna say they did him out of order because his character kicks it in the books, but
you can stream Mr. Mercedes on Peacock now.
Yeah,
cool.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, it's well worth watching.
Yeah, it is. It's really good. The suspense is solid. It's really good.
Brendan Gleeson's top notch.
I was trying to remember his name. He's awesome. Mad-Eye Moody from Harry Potter.
He's another one that's like excellent in everything he fucking does. Actors, even though you can't grasp his name like instantly when looking at him, but every time you see him, like, oh, that was that dude from, and he steals every scene that he's in.
Yeah. One of my most favorite scenes of his. Did you guys see the Ballad of Buster Scraggs? It was on Netflix.
Didn't watch the whole thing. I saw the first.
Yeah, I think I saw a little bit. That's with John C. Reilly.
It's with a bunch of people.
It's got like a bunch of people.
There's like
an
mini
anthology
episodes
of shorts done by the Coen brothers. The very last one is Brendan Gleeson's, and he fucking steals the entire short film. Like, just absolutely steals it. He's so amazing.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Really a creepy one.
I think I watched the first two. I watched the one with James Franco, and then I watched the one with I don't know his name, but he was the one who was in all white and he was really like goofy.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, this isn't what I thought it was going to be.
It's a weird. If you watch it, like you start with that first one, and it's real kind of upbeat and has kind of a quirky ending to it, and you're like, okay. And then the next one's a little darker, and they get just progressively darker as it goes on.
Gotcha.
And like they are pretty fucked up towards the end, and you're just like, oh my god, like who the fuck wrote this?
The Coens, apparently.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. I think it's fantastic. But it's definitely like a weird one.
Well, it's good to know that once you plow through the first couple, it gets better.
Like,
I might actually have to check that one out.
Each one's different.
Man. Like Love, Death, and Robots.
Yeah.
Except
for this has a prescribed order.
Oh. Yeah, and besides that, I've watched the usual. I'm caught up on the Bad Batch, which is this most recent episode was actually pretty good. It's starting to pick up a little bit.
I'm halfway through last week's episode, and it was really good. I just ran out of time. I wanted to finish that episode, but I liked where it was going.
Yeah. And then we started Loki. I'm always like a few days behind because my wife works Wednesday, Thursday when it drops, so I won't watch that until Friday usually. And then today they announced that you can pre-order tickets, or maybe it was yesterday, for Black Widow.
Yeah.
So you can officially go online and buy your tickets to go see that in the theater. Or I think it's $30 in Disney Plus, and you can pre-order that now if you want to also. And then, the majority of my time was taken up by stupid Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which I am now basically done with.
Yeah, you keep playing it.
I don't. Well, see, the thing is, like, I've always been an Assassin's Creed fan because the first game was just like an experience for me. Like, it was when it came out, it was
groundbreaking.
Yeah, it was pretty one of a kind. And then the Ezio trilogy was really solid too. And then ever since, like, they've kind of gone bigger rather than better with the games, like every outing the game, and they've just announced that the next one's going to be even bigger than Valhalla. And I'm like, I'd rather have it be like, after basically finishing this one, I think I have one like post current timeline mission left to go. But part of me really wants them to just finish making Assassin's Creed movies or games. Just take the story that you've got, that's the background, or that's actually the current timeline story, and just finish it. Because like they're still living in the world that was created by what Desmond did in the in the Ezio trilogy, and they keep referring back to that, and it feels like it's a very open story. And I would love for them to just be like Assassin's Creed, something, the final chapter, and just finish the story. Because I mean, they can keep making games in that genre, but I mean, other companies are now making those games, and they're doing it better. So if you look at what was the samurai one that just came out? Yeah, Ghost of Tsushima. That was essentially an Assassin's Creed game, and it was far better than an Assassin's Creed game.
In some ways, yes, and in some ways, no. But go ahead.
Yeah, in all ways, but
except for parkour and exploration.
Yeah, but I noticed in Valhalla.
Oh my god,
like,
Alex, you say "fuck you" so nicely without actually saying "fuck you."
They're just facts, man. They're just facts. Yeah. Okay.
Well, I noticed in the current one in Valhalla, the parkour isn't even that good anymore. You can just climb anything now.
Well, that's like what I mean. Like you can climb anything. It's like you can go wherever you want. I'll sacrifice style.
In the first one, it was more realistic though. Like you had to grab onto certain things, and other things you couldn't. And it's like in Valhalla, you could just climb like a sheer mountain face without a rope.
I guess I don't understand why that's bad. That you can go wherever you want.
It's just lame. It's lame. It should be a little more realistic. But, I don't know.
I suppose.
Yeah, I do like how this one at the end ties in like a device like in the actual Assassin's Creed movie, where it comes down from the ceiling and straps into your back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was interesting too.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's if you like Assassin's Creed games, it's an Assassin's Creed game. So definitely play it. Like, what's that?
Have we ever talked about the Assassin's Creed movie on here?
I think briefly.
That came out. Well, I mean, not in detail because that came out way before we started this show.
Yeah, well, into that.
Because I tried to watch it once and I fell asleep like 15 minutes into it. I just couldn't do it.
See, we have talked about it.
Yeah,
because I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Never mind then. Sally forth, sir.
No, I mean that's the gist of everything I've done and watched this week. So I think we can move on from me. I think I took up enough time with watching absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's our show. Let's go with David next.
All right, I watched a couple things. Also watched Loki and watched my new thing. I watched also the first episode of the show Sweet Tooth on Netflix. It's about a virus that comes in, and at the same time, it's killing off quite a large population. Kids are being born as like half human, half creature. So you'll have like a puppy child and a monkey child and an owl child and all of these things. And this story revolves around a deer boy. What's the deer? The deer boy's got a name, Gus, I think. I forget. It wasn't important. Basically,
John. It's a John Deere.
That would have been funny. It is not John. They were
0 out of 10.
Clever. So basically, Will Forte takes this kid into the woods and raises him in the woods in kind of this isolated area, not letting him out, knowing that there is racism and hatred towards the hybrids. But eventually he dies, and then the kid has to kind of venture forth on his own. And he's, I don't know, like 9, 10, not very old. And he almost gets caught by some poachers because he eats a candy bar, he smells it, and he goes, "Oh my God, what's this?" Because he's never had it before. That's how he gets the name Sweet Tooth. Ultimately, I didn't make it out of the first episode. Like, we finished it. It was really kind of lame.
That's
it's
crazy.
up to-
It's getting like rave reviews everywhere.
Yeah, I know a lot of people really loved it. Maybe it gets better after the first episode. So I encourage anyone here to watch 2 and get back to me, because I'm not going to watch the second one otherwise. So there's that.
The imagery, like I'm just looking at the still of like the kid with the horns, and it looks interesting.
I mean, they do good work. For the most part, like the hybrids look really cool, and they're setting up a world, but it's got a weird tone to it. It's kind of fantastical, but also trying to be post-apocalyptic. And I don't know. It's really hard to get your finger on, and I don't know. It wasn't working for me.
My that one is produced by. It's produced by Robert Downey Jr. and his wife.
Oh, well. I wasn't.
Yeah, and it's a DC property, which is kind of funny because
he's decided to invest his Marvel money.
Yeah,
he's in a DC property.
Well, I mean, somebody's got to do it right.
He's like, you kill me off here. I'm going to the other team.
Yeah, I'm going to the other side. I can be Kevin Feige. All right, and then I went in the theaters and saw In the Heights, the new musical. It was fucking amazing. It was really good.
We're going to see it
really good
at some point in the next week.
Yeah,
Soph and I are going to see it. We held off not watching it on HBO Max. I know we want to see it in the theater.
We saw it at the Vine, which was sold out on opening night.
Wow.
Nice.
And it's still under quarantine spacing rules.
Oh, like half the seats available.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was still a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
And it was full, and it was fun to have the audience interaction, and it was a really good movie.
Sense.
If you like musicals and you like Lin-Manuel Miranda, you're just gonna love it.
I think the Hamilton premiering on Disney Plus at the beginning of all this pandemic stuff built up a huge fan base for this that might not have been there before. Like this was going to be real niche until Hamilton came out.
It's got a very similar sound. I had never seen the play.
Because this was before Hamilton.
I hadn't listened to it. It sounds very, very similar. I mean, just even the actors sound like they were in Hamilton. Some of them were, but
the lead actor was John Lawrence and Alexander's son in Hamilton.
And he's fantastic. Yeah. He is flawless throughout the entire film.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone in the film, it just nails it. It's really well done. Like I could nitpick tiny little things, but they're unimportant. Ultimately, it was really well done. My wife says that it actually doesn't work very well on stage because they're limited by the set as to what they can do. So she said it's typically done on stage with a unit set, kind of like an Avenue Q kind of thing, where it's just a whole bunch of houses and that's it. And then everything happens right there on the street. There's no inside, there's no outside. It's just the whole thing takes place, people talking on the street. Well, that was not the case with the movie. They got to go anywhere they wanted to, and it really, really worked. So she was like, this is way better than seeing it in a theater, which is not something my wife's going to say very often.
Right. Yeah. No.
Right.
Cool.
So that's pretty much it for me. Yeah.
All right. Peter.
So I forgot I had watched something slightly notable that one of you, I forgot what one of you said earlier that jogged my memory. I watched, went way back in the vault to 1995's 4 Rooms.
Oh, I love that
movie is so good.
Does it hold up still?
Yes. Especially the Quentin Tarantino one at the end holds up incredibly well. The Robert Rodriguez one feels a little stale, and so does the first Allison Anders one, but it was always a little off anyway. It just had its own little vibe. But the one with Jennifer Beals and I forget the old guy's name is still just fucking weird to the point where you're just like, this is actually happening right here. And that Quentin Tarantino directed one at the end is so perfect.
The timing in that one is just perfect. I've
actually shown just that segment to Soph a couple times, Just be like, this is like just really, because the opening shot going into that one story is almost like 8 minutes long, like a continuous one shot the whole way before at one point they finally cut to another camera. And it's just really, really well done. It's Quentin Tarantino at his like early best.
I loved early Tarantino. Today's Tarantino is too much Tarantino. It's like Tarantino turned up to 12. And like, I thought for me, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood would have been much better if we had taken the Tarantino back about 20%. Personal opinion.
I haven't seen it.
I still haven't watched it. I've got it.
I mean, it's Tarantino. If you like Tarantino, you get what you get. If you don't like Tarantino, don't watch that movie.
Yeah, it's an interesting one too, because it doesn't have what you would consider like a straightforward plot. Like, it's just shit happens and then it's over, but it's a long movie.
The funny thing is it's actually a very straightforward plot if you're familiar with the Manson killings.
That's true.
Which sadly I am quite familiar with the Manson killings. So this was like a movie like made for me, but there was just too much Tarantino.
Okay, I'll bite. Why are you so familiar with the Manson killings, David?
I love true crime shit, man. I've read like 4 books on the Mansons and listened to multiple podcasts.
And you're off the show. Anyways, no.
Says the guy who looks like Manson.
I'm very familiar with a lot of other killings as well.
The savior of all humans, or whatever he is.
Did you ever see the what is it? Is it Young Jeffrey Dahmer or Young John Wayne Gacy? That movie, I think it was on Netflix with the kid who did he was a Disney Channel star. He was in the
Zac Efron, right? Efron.
No, it wasn't Zac Efron. Zac Efron,
he did Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
That
there was a Young Jeffrey Dahmer one that was on Netflix.
Was it like Young Sheldon from Big Bang? Just a serial comedy with young Jeffrey.
That would be hella funny.
What a scam.
Kids. Yeah,
it's his first.
He's such a prankster. Yeah.
Oh, Jeffrey,
where's the neighborhood
turtles?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, to buy your neighbor a new cat.
It was Young Jeffrey Dahmer, and it's him like right out of high school or in high school. He's like very young, and the just kind of supposedly tells this story that leads up to the beginning of his obsession, almost like Hannibal was for the whole Silence of the Lambs thing. I don't know. Yeah, I'm just curious if you had seen that then.
I had not.
Mm-mm. All right then.
It must not have been very good.
No, I don't think it was.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, but 4 rooms. It's really good. I mean, I kind of glossed over the part of it. It's 4 separate short stories done by 4 kind of different up and coming, directors as it was. And one was Allison Anders, and it's got this plot of them trying to resurrect the goddess. It's this coven of witches, and Ione Skye is supposed to bring semen to this whole thing, and she somehow forgets.
As in like nautical men, or as in like sperm?
As in
like sperm.
Just verifying.
The thing that runs through all 4 of these stories that ties them together is Tim Roth playing Ted the bellboy, the bellhop.
Oh, that's right.
Amazingly well. It's Tim Roth. It's such a cartoon, and he's obviously playing homage and imitating a talking version of Jerry Lewis's The Bellboy. And Quentin Tarantino even points it out, like at the end in his segment. He has a little thing where he spits on that. And if you're familiar with that movie, it is perfect. And Tim Roth is amazing.
I would argue it's probably Tim Roth's best role.
Wow. Even better than the Incredible Hulk.
Wow, dude.
I could see that. I could see the argument made for that, because it's one of those things that like I said it's homage, but it's still its own separate character. And it's one of those things where like you see when an actor, like there was no character and then this guy just created this. Like you could tell it wasn't one of those things where you're like, okay, be an annoying British guy. It
wasn't written this way. It's all Tim.
Yeah, and it's done so well, and it's just him interweaving through these stories. So he winds up, no spoilers, but he winds up providing his
for
semen.
A 25-year-old movie.
in the first thing, and then right.
Yeah, I'm not gonna watch it. Go for it.
You really
Okay,
should though. It's quite an
it's
excellent.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the
Too
second
old.
one,
It's gonna-
he gets called to another room where Jennifer Beals, and I'm forgetting the actor that plays her husband, but they're doing this kind of weird sex game with a gun and being tied up, but he's like a heart patient, so he's got this, it's this very kind of surreal, trippy thing that goes on. And she's kind of crazy, and Ted gets sucked into this, and he makes his way through it and comes out. And then the third one is a Robert Rodriguez directed one, and it's Antonio Banderas. And
of course it is.
yeah, well, no, he's actually only in it very briefly, in the very beginning and the very end. He and his wife are going out because the whole thing takes place on New Year's Eve. So Ted is like the one bellhop working in the entire building, right? And so they're going out, and they leave their 2 kids in the room, and Ted has to watch them. Well, the kids wind up flipping up the mattress and finding a dead overdosed hooker. Fire starts. Yeah, like stuff to the bedroom. But it's the way it's filmed, it's almost cartoonish, but not. And like the kid, I forget, Ted gets stuck with like the dirty needle at one point. And so, he winds up working his way back through that, and Antonio Banderas comes in as Antonio Banderas about the whole thing.
Was Selma Hayek his wife?
No, it was Tamlyn Tomita, the girl who plays Yukio in Karate Kid 2, Daniel's girlfriend.
Okay.
In that one. And so then he makes his way out of that little trouble, and then he goes into the fourth story, and it's Quentin Tarantino is playing a movie director, right? Ted is ready to quit, and the bell rings, so he finally goes to do the last one, and it's Quentin Tarantino, Bruce Willis, Jennifer Beals from the second one winds up showing back up, and it's a little disconcerting for Ted there. And one other guy, I'm forgetting his name, the actor, but he was the bartender in Pulp Fiction. You'd recognize him if you saw him.
Yeah.
But so what they're doing is they're having this little, party up there in the suite, and they start watching old episodes of The Twilight Zone. And there's this episode called The Man from Rio with Peter Lorre, where he just drives around and he basically bets people that they can't light their lighter 10 times in a row or he'll cut off their pinky. And so, yeah. And so they decide that they want to do this for if the guy's lighter lights 10 times, he's going to win Quentin Tarantino's Chevelle. And if not, he's got to cut his, the finger's got to cut off. But none of them feel like they could cut the finger off. So they bring Ted the bellboy up with these very specific items. And the scene that David's talking about, the part you were mentioning earlier, is Quentin Tarantino goes and he sells Ted. It's 60 seconds, and he sells Ted on doing this, on being the Hatchet Man. And it feels like it was completely improv, but there's no way it could have been.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
It just, but Quentin, and I like, you think it's Tim Roth's best work. I think this is actually Quentin Tarantino's best acting, because I think he's just being Quentin Tarantino.
Well, I
That's
mean,
not
when
a
is
solid
he?
stretch,
When is he
though,
not?
right?
Yeah, like he's
Yeah.
he always is. In Django, he's Quentin with an Australian accent. Like he's just always Quentin, kind of.
So even if you don't watch the other 3, Alex, seek out. It's probably available somewhere on YouTube or something. Just the Quentin Tarantino, the fourth story.
Yeah, his segment I think is called "The
It's-
Man from Rio." I think
Yeah.
that's the name of his segment.
And that's the name of the episode of the Twilight Zone
yeah.
Okay.
they're watching. It's just fucking cool.
Cool.
So that's about what I watched, other than Loki.
What we're going to talk about in a minute.
And your movie.
Yes, and my movie.
Yeah. Excellent. I'll go quick. I haven't watched too much new. I've been continuing my Big Bang journey. Last week I was on season 6, and this week I am on season 9.
It's like a Pornhub title, My Big Bang Journey.
I also watched that, which is why I didn't have time for anything else. Yes, it's still a good show. Like, I know last week, David, you said that it slips a bit in the last couple of seasons. I think I'm probably
You're on the
either
precipice
don't
or-
agree with that, or I'm still in the good part because I'm still having a good time at the moment. I know there's 12 seasons, so still a couple more to go, but specifically season 8 was really, really good and very heavy. They dealt with a lot of stuff in that season. I mean, I'll probably just say it just because the show.
Yeah, which was season? I've seen them all. I don't know the seasons
like that's the season that like Howard's mother passes away, and
Okay.
there's like
Yeah,
some breakup stuff and some relationships problems that are more than just there for a laugh. Like they are kind of more serious, and things get pretty real a few times. And there were definitely a few episodes in season 8 where they would end, and it wasn't like the last gag. It was more like the last moment, and it was more dramatic and a little more impactful. And it was like, oh wow, they're getting pretty heavy, because they didn't do that too much really early on. Like they had a couple moments, but like it really went from like 0 to 100 in terms of just emotional effect, I would say, in season 8. And season 9, we're only a couple episodes in, but it's good so far. We're still enjoying it. It's still the Big Bang. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about that. It's a fun show. The other thing, which I think maybe a couple of us have more or less caught up on, I don't know about you, David, but I am fully caught up on Mythic Quest.
So I discovered why I haven't been caught up on Mythic Quest. Every time I try and check it, it doesn't work on my goddamn Xbox. So that's why, like every time at night, I'm
like the
I'm gonna
Apple
watch
TV
that.
app?
Right? Yeah, the app doesn't work. So
Do you not have an Apple TV?
I do not have an Apple TV. Why would I own an Apple TV?
I mean, I have one, and I ask that question sometimes too. I do.
No,
on one,
I'm not a huge
they're
Apple
cool.
user. My daughter is, so that's how we get the Apple TV Plus. She gets
Do
something.
you have a smart TV? Because the
Yes.
Apple TV app is available on some smart TVs.
Yeah, I
now,
can
too.
do it on my TV, but then I miss the whole surround sound and all that other stuff, and everything runs through my smart remote, except for.
Sounds like
yeah,
you
I
should
know
set
it's all
yourself up,
personal
right?
problems. I understand this, but
do you
no,
need
I'm
an
not
IT?
caught up.
You need a AV person to come in and connect that for you. Because if you
No.
do it right, you can get surround sound from your TV back to your receiver. It's just an optical cable.
So what setup do you have in your?
But actually, the issue is my TV and my receiver are about 11 feet apart, and all the wires have been run through the walls. So running an additional optical cable through the wall is a little bit harder.
So you just run one of the original ones back to the TV, tape it all together, and pull it back.
Yeah, they're
Don't make this
flat,
difficult,
wide
David.
HDMI cable.
Welcome to Tech Talk, our new podcast within a podcast on all pop and culture. Thrilling, audible conversations about wiring up TVs. Well, okay, so you're not caught up. Is basically
I'm not caught up.
Okay.
But feel free to talk. I will probably forget.
Well, we won't
that you
spoil
said
anything. I know that I am all the way up to date. I think there's only one episode left. I think the finale is the next one.
Yeah.
No, is it really?
Episode 8, I believe, is the finale.
I think there's 10.
Okay, maybe I thought that the next one was the last one of this season.
It might be, but I thought, because I thought last season was only, I think it's 10 in each season.
Do some research and prove me wrong. And while
there's
you do that,
9 episodes this season.
9. Okay, so there's 2 more then.
Yeah.
The last episode that we all watched was the flashback episode. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Won't go too far into detail, because I don't want to spoil it for David. But what I will say is that it reminds me of the alternate story episode from season 1 of the couple who starts the company together.
Oh yeah.
In that it was super detached from the main plot, and also probably the best episode this season, in my opinion. Except this time it's a little bit more connected because it's about young CW.
Yeah.
Which, if you told me at the beginning of the season or the show in general that I would care about CW, I'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I really don't care about CW at all. But his flashback and then this next episode, which you guys haven't watched yet, so I won't say anything, but it's sort of a continuation. Really, it opened my eyes to him as a character, and it really let him stretch his legs as an actor. Because obviously the last episode was a different actor as a flashback, but in this next one, I was like, wow. Like,
I thought that kid did an awesome job because he was big head on Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And he was always just kind of doofy and didn't really do much on Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
And to see him get to stretch his legs a little bit and
But
Yeah,
I think
lead there.
after this we're going to wind up seeing him more places, because he kind of showed like he's not just the doofy kid from Silicon Valley.
Oh,
Like,
you mean the
he's-
actor?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, like I agree.
did
I
great.
agree with you. So far, this is the best episode so far this season. Definitely.
I think so.
There are moments like the very end of the human resources episode.
Oh yeah,
with-
of course.
with Ian and Poppy.
Yeah,
Like I think this season it's absolutely hilarious at times, but there is so much sentimental, like melancholy coming out of the pandemic feeling that they pulled in right from the the web episode that they did, which again is still I think easily one of the best hours on television that I've seen in the last 10 years.
sure. Yeah, the
I think
quarantine
it's
episode
done
was
so well.
fantastic.
But this season has seen more emotional strife
Yep.
with the funny, and I mean Rob McElhenney, kind of wow.
Well, yeah, him and I know Charlie Day.
Yeah,
and there's one more writer, Megan something. I can't remember her last name at the moment, but they're like the
Anders?
main writers, and
Yeah.
they're definitely going outside of their comfort zones with this show more than they do with like Always Sunny or even
Yeah.
season 1 of this show. Like there were a couple of moments in season 1 that were deeper, but this one is like almost 1 to 2 an episode, if not most of the episode. Like the flashback episode was pretty deep the whole time. This next one that you guys will watch it's definitely it's rough. Like it's not funny the whole time. Like there are definitely some things that happen where you're like, oh, like that just punched me in the heart. Like it was pretty intense. So I'm really enjoying
the
Quest.
the first season, the flashback episode in the first season landed so well because that season was a little more silly most of the time.
Agreed.
So that set that episode a little more apart. Where this season you've had those moments already that were kind of dramatic and serious, and not that it made this episode any less good. It just maybe is a little less impactful compared to that episode in the first one.
Sure, of course, yeah, I agree. I still think the couple episode from season 1 is the best episode.
Yeah,
in general.
Mm-hmm.
Quarantine episode's up there too, but I still think that one takes the cake in my opinion.
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm really enjoying Mythic Quest quite a bit. Season 2 is very strong. I'm excited to see where it ends up.
Nice.
I think that's about it for me as far as new things. Obviously, lots of YouTube, like every week, just random shit. Lots of games, like every week, just random shit. I actually picked back up Valhalla as well because I had already beaten it before, and then now I'm doing like a new run on PS5. I'm just taking like a really long time. Like I'm not like playing it in one sitting. I kind of jump in every once in a while, do like a mission or two, explore a bit, and then jump out. And it's actually really easy to digest that way, and very enjoyable. And since I've seen it all already, I don't really care about like, wait, what's going on? Like it's just for fun. So
yeah. I know there's DLC coming out too.
One of them just came out. You get to go to Ireland. It's a whole new place. It's pretty cool. And then France or Paris is coming out in the summer. I think that's it as far as major shit. There were some announcements today that I'll just kind of plow through really quickly. It is E3 time. And since I'm hosting, we're talking about video games, and I don't give a fuck what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, eat it, Opie.
I know you guys don't really care.
No, I actually no. I love.
No, as in like you don't care, as in like you're upset that we're talking about.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
please go on. I love hearing about this. Actually, I've played the first couple Assassin's Creed, so like that's why I brought up the movie earlier because I feel like that movie's more accessible if you haven't played a bunch of the games.
Maybe, and then also maybe not, because they definitely mention some things and show some things in the game that are subtle, and you'd only know if you played a lot of the games.
Okay.
So I think it's like half and half. But basically it's E3 time, which is it's video game season. Basically everything's getting announced, and since E3 can't happen because pandemic is still kind of a thing, there's a lot of conferences and studios that are, or I should say there's a lot of studios that are putting on like web conferences. So Ubisoft and Gearbox went today, so there's some new information about a bunch of Ubisoft stuff and some Gearbox games. They finally today, because this will kind of kick it back into relevance for this show, they finally showed footage of the Avatar game, as in James Cameron's Avatar, not as in the boy who shoots water around Avatar. It looks fucking awesome. Like it's I don't know if anyone else has played The Division, but
the first one.
Yeah, that's a Tom Clancy game based in like a post-pandemic New York in the first game, and then Washington D.C. in the second game. It's a very realized world. Like it's 1-to-1 scale of New York, 1-to-1 scale of DC. It's like really impressive in terms of world building. So that studio and that engine for that game are being used for Avatar. And it looks just like a big ass open world Pandora, which you can like ride around on your weird horses or fly around on your weird birds. They haven't shown like too much, but they showed enough to get me kind of excited. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
So it's quickly. Like Red Dead Redemption in Pandora.
Maybe, because I don't know how it's going to play, but in theory, I mean, most open world games are kind of the same. So yes, in a nutshell, but we still need to find out more. But it looks really cool, like graphic wise. It looks very exciting. It's coming out next year, I think. So that's exciting. And there's a bunch of other stuff they announced that I'm not going to talk about. So with that being said,
what else did they announce?
Nothing really that exciting, which is why I'm not going to talk about it. That was definitely the most exciting thing. It was like the one more thing, and then they showed that off, kind of a thing. So
not like The Rest of Us 3 or The Last of Us or
The Rest of that should be the sequel. The Rest of Us, because it's like The Last of Us. It's like, well, The Rest of Us. Like, what about us? There
it's kind of like a funny, like sitcom-y game.
Yeah, marketing genius.
The Rest of Us.
Yeah. Alrighty. Let's talk about our franchises. No one finished anything, right?
Nope.
I did not get involved in my franchise this week.
That's fine. I mean, that's
it is fine because
less Connery Bond to talk about, so I'm okay with it. Let's end on something happy. So we're gonna start with you, David.
All right. So
I don't know, man. David's the paranormal activity salesman.
I know, but this week at least we can all talk about Jurassic Park after this. So
that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'm doing this on purpose. I'm as thrilled as the rest of you when David does his synopses for these movies, because they're the best like campfire stories I've ever heard. I'll just put it that way.
Right.
So wow us with part whatever
4.
the fuck this one is. 4. There you go.
Paranormal Activity 4. So you can kind of see there's a little boy.
Not really. It's like the most pixelated thing I've ever seen in my life.
So we'll get to what this means later. For those who are at home, it looks like a very dot matrix photo of kids in night vision. It's
the worst night vision ever.
Yeah, terrible night vision.
The scene from the Matrix 2 with the architect.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh, I'm already bored.
So this one does things a little different. Well, not really. It starts off the same way that I'll start off with, which is, way back stuff. And so you get Katie shows up to Hunter's first birthday. It's probably, I think it's like 3 months before she kidnaps him and kills Christy and her husband. So it's that, and then it flashes forward to when she kills Christy and her husband and steals Hunter, and then it splashes across the unknown location to this day.
And that happened at the end of the second one.
That happened at the end of the second one.
Okay.
Yes. No, they don't refer back to
ghosts.
The third one at all. There is nothing that ties into the third one in any capacity, other than the ghost. Its name is still Toby. So that was established in the third one. So there is that. But other than that, they don't discuss the fact that her mom was leading a coven of witches and all that other stuff. So
every time you say Toby, I just think of the character from The Office. It's just, you can just imagine him as a ghost, like just slinking around, being like, "Michael, can you please file the paperwork?" Like, no.
Well, you never actually see or hear Toby. Toby is
right, of course,
our friend.
He's an apparition. I know that much, David. Jeez.
Okay.
That's stupid.
So that's where our normal interaction with the previous characters end, and we start with a new family. So it starts with some cell phone footage of a boy named Wyatt, who's about 6 years old, playing soccer with a whole bunch of other 6-year-olds. And throughout this footage, they'll be panning, and now and then they'll see like some creepy little boy standing by himself in a creepy fashion, like at the end of the pitch or like on the side of the road. They keep seeing this little boy, and
he's in like different spots as they pan around.
Well, like, so he's in one spot when they're playing soccer, but when you pan back, he's gone.
Yeah.
And then later when they're driving down the road.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Like,
I thought she meant he was like
the road,
zipping around like onto different sides of the field while they're playing soccer or something.
So it's just, he just kind of keeps popping up in the footage.
Got it.
And then you get home and you find out the new family is Wyatt, and he's 6. And then you have Alex. She is 15, I believe. And then their mom and their dad. And then pretty early on, you establish that Alex has kind of a boyfriend, kind of not. This kid's name is Ben. He's like trying to make the moves, and he's there to like, you know, hook up and be her boyfriend.
Sure.
And she's there. She just thinks he's fun and funny and keeps him around. Kind of. So he's currently friend zoned. But he's also not
bastard.
like being silent. He's like always hitting on her. So like, but not in like a creepy fashion, but you know, making his interests known constantly.
Sure.
And so
I will not be ignored, Katie.
yeah. So most of this movie is kind of refreshing in the beginning in that it's not the standard footage. It's just footage of these teenagers running around interacting. And so for the most part, the beginning of the film, the teenagers are the main characters. You've got Alex and Ben, and they're just both, one or the other is shooting shit on their cell phones because they're teenagers.
Sure.
And
that makes sense.
It makes sense, and it works, and it's far more organic. It's not like locked to single rooms and stuff. And it's not like, you know, someone with a camcorder, which always elicits from other people kind of an unnatural response. The cell phone footage, everyone seemed a little bit more natural. It was pretty cool. But the parents go away. Alex throws kind of a little party, like 5 or 6 people over. And then down at the end, it's just her and Ben, and they're kind of moving around.
We know what that means.
She goes to show him the playhouse in the backyard, this badass like tree house with like a pole that you slide down to get out, and all kinds of
she does.
I'm sure he has a pole she can slide down.
Right.
Whoa!
So they go up there, and they start looking around, and as he pans, that creepy little boy is like standing in the corner, like fucking Blair Witch style, just like in the tight little room. They scream and like nearly fall out of the treehouse. It's quite fantastic. But it's like 3 a.m. So they like escort his ass home, you know, and they spend the whole next day talking about how creepy that kid Robbie is, who lives across the street. And then that night, something happens to Robbie's mom. You find out that Robbie lives alone with his mom, and it's just the two of them. And no one really knows them very well. They're kind of very shy and keep to themselves. But something happens to her, and there's nowhere for Robbie to go. So Robbie comes to stay with the family that we've been following. And in the first night, Robbie sneaks into Alex's bed and like snuggles up against her. He's like the big spoon in the middle of the night. And then like later gets out of bed and goes back into his own bed. And the way they find out about this is because Alex forgot to turn off her video chat, and Ben's computer recorded the whole thing. So Ben had like,
he accidentally recorded her sleeping.
device.
Come on, Ben.
So then he has to like show her the computer, and is like, now my computer just does this automatically. I'm not some weird creepy guy, which she never buys, by the way. She's like the whole time going, of course you're a fucking creepy guy. The kid, I don't know if any of you guys saw the show, The Real O'Neills. It's like 6 years old, I guess, at this point. It ran for 1 season. I think it was on ABC.
Is that the one? Go ahead.
It was about a kid who is in like Catholic school, and he comes out to his family and to like the whole community.
Yes. That was a good show.
It was a good show. The main character, if I remember correctly, ran afoul with the studio, something he said or something like that. Up killing the show, which was too bad because he was perfect. It was like a perfect role for him. And anyways, his older brother from that show plays Ben in this movie.
Okay.
And he's fucking killing it the entire film. It's like the first good acting you've seen in the entire franchise is this kid. He's charming, he's funny, and even when he's done something like record this girl while she's sleeping at night, it doesn't seem that creepy coming from him. He just is charming enough that he sells it in such a way. So at this point, the daughter Alex decides that the best plan is to hack every single piece of technology in the house to constantly record. So
that's a normal, natural reaction.
Yeah, you don't know how to do that.
My first reaction would be, why don't I have a conversation with the kid about crawling into my bed?
So you did, and she talks to her mom, and her mom's like, he was just scared and frightened and needed somewhere to go, and she's like, no, this shit's weird.
But that doesn't explain the boner, mom.
Yeah, and so and this kid's 6 years old too. He's like the same age as Wyatt, the kid that lives there.
6-year-old boner.
That changes my
yeah.
So really kills my joke.
Yeah, you thought Mike's joke was bad earlier about the treehouse.
So Wyatt and Robbie, the creepy boy from across the street, are like become fast friends, right? Because they're the same age and they like to do the same stuff. And slowly over time, you come to find out that Robbie has a invisible friend named Toby that does stuff and can talk to people, And so at this point, you're like, okay, so Robbie's clearly Hunter, the mom is clearly Katie. So, okay, fine. So he's brought Toby over, and why is he bringing Toby here, and what's the plan? Some of the creepy things that happen is the kid is locked. In all of these movies, there's like a little closet in the kids' room that is like undersized, small little like storage area. Like every single fucking one of these has these. And inevitably, that's the place that like the ghost like pulls them in and like slams the door, right? And so they hear something, they run in there, they pull the door open, they pull both of the boys out, and Wyatt is shirtless, and drawn all over him are like symbols. And he was like, "We were almost done. We were almost done." And they were like, "Almost done with what?" And Robbie's like, "Oh, I was making it so that he could see him." So he was trying to make it so that Wyatt could see Toby by covering him in all of these arcane symbols and shit. And so they've got video of this. So they start looking up the symbols, and they realize that these are some ancient symbols in order to prep a vessel for
possession
and infestation. And so
sweet,
they're trying to clearly, for whatever reason, prep Wyatt for Toby to get into. And so now like the daughter and her boyfriend are like freaking out, trying to figure out what to do. All right, now the thing behind me is the Xbox Kinect. Apparently, according to the film, if you turn the infrared feature on and you turn all the lights out, you can see all of the little green dots that the Kinect projects around the room to do body mapping from, when you would dance around in front of the
this is true.
And so they at night hack the Xbox to do this and record. And of course, around 3 a.m. every night is when one of the two boys comes down here to talk to Toby. And those who can see, like, there's a boy, there he is. He's, I think that one might be Wyatt. I don't know. I think it's Wyatt. But the little figure kind of a little further back, that's Toby. You can kind of see his outline.
Mm-hmm.
The only way you could see Toby was with the Kinect, which was really pretty cool. It was a neat feature that they added to the film. At one point, Toby steals the mom's knife and like holds it up in the air for like 24 hours until it sneaks the dad over to like mess with her computer, and then it drops the knife and almost gets him. It tries to drop a chandelier on Alex. A couple other weird things happen, and then eventually Wyatt gets taken over to Robbie's house, and you see Katie for the first time, and okay, this is Katie. So then you're like, okay, so we found Katie and Hunter. And then they come back and you find out that Wyatt is adopted and that Wyatt is in fact Hunter. Now, how Wyatt gets separated from Katie and ends up being adopted by this family is never answered. But
that's the next one.
Apparently, I don't know, maybe. So this kid is Hunter. I don't really, have to really say much other than everyone dies and Katie leaves with Hunter. Like just literally everyone dies.
Pretty nice formulaic thing they got going on there.
Yeah. I forget how the mom and the dad die. I don't think either were terrible. I think maybe the dad was like electrocuted or something, and the mom was like choked and hung. The daughter was something similar. Ben got just like torn to pieces. That was brutal. But all in all, this one was fun. I really loved this movie.
Oh yeah?
Like I watched it in one sitting. I was kind of shocked as to how interested I was in it. It was just the whole first half with the teenagers just felt normal and fun. There was no bickering in this film. Like the first three are just all bitching, right? And watching paint dry. Shit was happening in this film, like constantly happening. There were very little downtime. You didn't have that same like watching the girls sleep and the aquarium bubbling in the background for 2 minutes straight, right? You just didn't get that shit. Instead, they showed you Toby, right? In a little dot walkout thing. Like you got to see a lot more in this film. The story they didn't really advance the story hardly at all. In fact, they added more questions. But the characters I was sad when these characters died, as opposed to the other films where I did not give a shit. So somehow they figured it out in the fourth one. I can't imagine
fourth time's a charm.
Be any good, but I've got two more.
Or you've just finally succumbed to the Stockholm syndrome that I expected
exactly.
to get during the nightmare films. This
one was legit fun. Like,
it's ironic.
Would I watch it again? Probably not. Did I enjoy watching it? I did. So
when you're watching these, are you renting them or are they streaming somewhere?
The 3 and 4 were both on Hulu.
Okay.
Ironically, this is the movie that you enjoyed the most, and I don't know if anyone else feels the same way, but this was the least captivating recap so far, I gotta say.
I will agree on that one.
I needed to feel a little bit more.
Nothing happened in the story, like other than they just brought a new family into torture. It didn't advance the mythology or the storyline in any way.
So that's the key. The worse the movie, the more interesting the recap.
Yeah.
Now
pretty
we
much.
know.
He fingers crossed that 5 is a fucking dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you got what? 2 more?
2 more.
Cool.
And then another one if it ever hits the theaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, by that point you'll be invested. So even if you're out of the franchise, you'll be like, "Well, I have to
watch
watch
it
it
anyway." Yeah,
I'll have to come back and recap
In the theater.
You gotta finish it out.
I actually wouldn't mind seeing one of these in the theater at this point, like with a bunch of fans who all just want to scream the whole time. I would find that funny.
That makes things better for sure.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, and I'm going to preface this really quickly. I don't think you need to do a shot for shot description of Jurassic Park. I feel like everyone has seen this, but I would like to discuss it.
Oh yes,
and get your opinions on it. Seeing it, like when's the last time you watched Jurassic Park before today, or whenever you watched it?
About 3 months ago.
Oh, well, that makes this less fun. I was hoping you'd be like 9 years ago, and then now. And like,
no, because before that, it had been that long, and I still remember that because so I watched it this time just for reference. I'm gonna take my opinion from actually when I watched it last before this with my daughters and showed it to them for the first time. The bottom line with this movie is it still fucking holds up ridiculously well.
The classic, man.
All the CGI, the whole, like, I don't even have like an awesome sound system in my house at all, but when you get that fucking bass hit and the fucking Tyrannosaurus is walking and the water's dripping, like you still kind of feel that. Jeff Goldblum is still fucking amazing, like throughout the entire thing. it's, the little kids are annoying, but at the same time, they're somehow endearing, and you like.
We have a disagreement down
I
from the
don't find the
bottom.
kids endearing at all. I find them annoying from start to finish. I
Oh,
was
really?
hoping a raptor would eat them, but it never happened.
I have always liked Tim
Yeah.
and liked Lex less, but I never really had a problem with Tim. I haven't watched it recently, if I'm being honest.
Okay, I will agree with Alex. I think that's a fairer assessment than what I said.
No, that's exactly it, but mostly because of what they do. It's a Unix system. I could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's not Unix at all.
Yeah.
It's like, I was like,
and
what is
granted,
this?
It's 1995.
I know,
So,
yeah, I
like,
know.
This hacker bullshit,
Yeah.
like all the like it's still like that ages, but it's still impactful.
Sure.
Like, because it's still a virus, and because they have the little Dennis Nedry thing in there, it actually almost makes it funny. Like, it would be like some sort of a GIF today that like
Right.
pops up or something, so it kind of works. And all that stuff, like Wayne Knight is so like annoyingly bad, and you hate him.
Yeah, he's Newman on steroids.
Yeah.
But that just the whole scene in the beginning when he's there getting the shaving room pit. I've got Johnson here. I've got Johnson. See, no one cares. That whole little bit
Yeah.
is still so like perfect.
Yeah.
In there, I really know what I have coming up in the second one. I haven't watched that yet. My daughter, like my family, we've decided
It's not horrible.
It's just going to be our whole little family thing to finish watching the rest of them through because they haven't seen them yet. So we might as well just go and do it. Oh, did I freeze again? God,
You were like this.
So it's going to be fun to like chop through it and see them with my kids, letting them watch them for the first time and getting their reaction. Because, dude, the T-Rex, like that's why I chose this picture. That to me still was like, I remember the first time I saw that in the theater. Like that's one of the first soundtracks to a movie that I bought that only had a score. Like you turn that shit way up in the car. I still remember the first time you hear that low bass rumble and it rolls through, and the Jurassic Park theme is amazing. The idea of it actually holds up well. In some ways, Michael Crichton's science was so far ahead of its time because it's kind of how things played out. Like we can do some of these things now in theory, and I love the little ride and the little man and how the side, this movie still just works exactly the way it did back in the 90s. It's
That's great. I mean, I didn't have any doubts, but it's just nice to hear because it is such a classic.
Yeah.
And really revolutionary in a lot of ways, for its time. And even still today, like, there's things that they did in that movie that animatronics in that movie look better than 90% of them in movies now.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like the
They
first
rely
Predator.
so heavily on the CG now that they don't put the work in like they did for
And then they think like, oh, we'll use animatronics, but we'll enhance them with CG, so they might look a little shitty, but it'll be fine. No one will notice. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had to really try back then.
It's like when they did the Star Wars, when they did the sequels, they finally said, "Oh, we need to do more practical effects rather than CGI."
Yeah.
Because practical is better. Like it's like if you look at Alien, like there's no CGI in Alien. That was a dude in a fucking suit, and it looks amazing, and it always holds up because it was real.
Yeah, it's all about lighting and angles. When you don't have everything you need, you make it work, and you use tricks. But
I would argue that's why the Lord of the Rings movies are better than the Hobbit ones, is because they was so much more practical.
Yeah.
The
like
Hobbit,
the orc,
real happy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the orc armies they fought were people in suits and armor, and the other one, like the white orc and his whole army some of his army were practical, but he was all CG, and a lot of his troops were CG, and for sure, I feel you.
And I think that is the other thing that struck me about the CG in this movie. It's still better than half of the CG that we're seeing today.
Yeah.
25 years later.
Well, this was a showpiece when they did it. I mean, this was the first one.
Yeah.
This technology, they put the work in. They did not fuck around.
Like the dinosaurs look legit.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I am
Mhm.
like that to me is like what a dinosaur would look like, and the way they interact and with the environment and
The
everything
sounds
else.
they put together for
Oh.
each individual dinosaur. Like, I mean, they've got no point of reference. They're making this
Yeah.
shit up, and it's so good. So good.
Whenever you hear like a T-Rex of any kind in anything nowadays, like a commercial or whatever, it may not be exact for copyright reasons, but it sounds
it's
like the
this,
T-Rex
yeah.
from Jurassic
Yeah.
Park.
Yeah.
Same with the raptors with their high-pitched screeches and all that. It's like,
It's established sounds now.
yeah, it really
Yeah.
did kind of change the zeitgeist a little bit, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, it's
I'm
definitely.
happy that you got to watch it. Have fun with the rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Paul Daniel premiere.
I've seen the last two recently. Like when I saw the
As
first
in
one in the
World
theater.
and Fallen Kingdom, or
Yeah. Well, and recently I saw one in the theater, and then the second one when it first came out on like HBO or wherever it came out.
Yeah.
So they're a little fresh in my memory, so I still have those in there. 2 and 3, I have not seen in 20 years.
I could probably say, I'd say, just like thinking about it, 2 is probably on par with like World. Like it has some really good moments and some kind of stupid moments. 3 is kind of meh, and then Fallen Kingdom is a pile of shit.
Yeah,
like an absolute.
I remember
pile.
that. It's yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
this
we'll get to
because
those.
my,
We'll get to those soon.
My youngest is a huge Jurassic Park fan.
Mhm.
Like he loves them, and because I think it's because he's 10 that he actually likes the world movies because they're big and they're actiony and all that. Yeah. So it's fun to see them through his eyes because I know the things that are wrong with them.
Yeah.
As an adult, I'm like that. No.
Yeah.
But as a kid, he's not taking it in the same way.
Yeah. I mean, he's fortunate enough to not look at things with a critical eye yet. So that's
but he's also like infinitely smarter than me with this shit. Like he knows everything about those fucking movies. Like he corrects me on
that's
Star
an
Wars.
Ankylosaurus, Dad.
Not just that. I mean, you want to talk any fucking technical thing about those movies, and he knows far more about it than I do. Star Wars, he corrects me on everything. Like he eats that shit up.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Circle of life.
Hell yes.
Yeah. I'm sending him to film school at some point.
I do. The one thing I do remember about Fallen Kingdom was that because I didn't see it in the theater, and I saw World in the theater. I think these are movies that 100% play to seeing them in the theater versus at home. And I think if I had seen Fallen Kingdom in the theater, it may have been a little better.
I don't agree.
Well, again, we'll talk about that in a couple of weeks.
We'll talk about
get there.
I actually didn't see it in theater either.
It doesn't cost that much to rent a theater right now. Still,
I know.
You might just
take
want to
advantage.
put that one to the test.
Yeah, no, I made the mistake of watching that movie on my birthday.
Oh,
because I never saw it in theaters, and I was like, you know what? It's my birthday. I want to like watch a dinosaur movie and eat mac and cheese and just have like a day like that. And then the mac and cheese was great. And then I started that movie and I was just like, what the fuck have I done?
Should have watched Velocipaster.
I probably should have.
No, dude, no one should watch Velocipaster.
I'm sorry. We're going to go back to Velocipaster. That movie stopped taking itself seriously about 20 minutes in, and it just became.
Oh, it was not 20 minutes in. Movie. It was like 20 seconds in.
Well, no.
Yeah.
It was the title of the movie that didn't take itself seriously.
Has everyone here seen it but me?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, you got to watch it.
No, you don't.
No,
don't
watch it going into it knowing it's a fucking turd. Like, that it's a turd going into it.
It'll be a punishment movie at some point. I'll just wait for someone to give it to me.
That's a good one.
It is legit fucking, like, it lets you know that it's terrible right out of the gate when his fucking parents die. Like, the scene with his parents. It's fucking... That is actually hilarious because it is fully admitting that they don't give a fuck. Like,
nice.
And then it's just downhill from there. Like whoever made this movie just didn't give a shit out of the gate.
What I'm saying is after 20 minutes though, I felt like
You should have killed yourself.
No, you get the point that
Yes.
it's not just that it's not taking itself seriously. Like I really feel like that's the point at which they go, oh, this is just farce. Like at first it's just a bad movie. And then stuff starts happening with like the, you know, when the whole ninja thing gets involved. And then you're just kind of like,
Yeah, Alex. Yeah. Your face says it all, buddy. You'll do that the entire film.
That's fine.
watch it, Darren. Watch it. Oh God, watch it.
Like I said, just wait for it to be a punishment movie. I'm sure one of us will get it at some point.
I'll have to remember that. Yeah.
So yes, Jurassic
Better
Park
than
still
Cats,
holds up.
guaranteed.
So go watch Jurassic Park. It's if you are listening to this
Oh yeah, sure.
podcast
Back to that.
and you have not seen Jurassic Park, turn this off,
Yeah.
go watch it, and then continue the podcast.
And then afterward, watch Avatar.
And then
Breaking Bad.
And the boys. Don't forget the boys.
And the boys.
That one should be up there higher.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we made it, guys. Let's
Speaking
talk.
of the boys, they've released pictures of Jensen Ackles
Yes,
as Soldier Boy.
Yeah. A lot of shows are starting to give little teasers because production, I think, is getting back to a little bit more normalcy. So there's a lot more shows like happening and a lot more shows filming. There's been a lot. I follow most of the cast of Letterkenny on Instagram, and Michelle
They're doing
Milet
2 seasons
specifically.
at once.
Yeah, they're filming 2 seasons at one time. So Michelle, who plays Katie, has been posting a lot of behind the scenes stuff, which is super fun.
Yeah.
Because that crew is just the best. So I'm excited for that. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff starting to ramp up production. So we're going to have like a revolution of movies in the next couple of years, movies and TV shows that have been put on hold that can finally be like released to the masses and filmed safely. So it's going to be an exciting time. And most of us probably won't watch any of them. So we'll just keep talking about DC and other things like that. Let's talk about the other ones who are not DC. Let's talk about Marvel and specifically Loki, because that first episode dropped this last Wednesday. I'm just going to go around the horn, get general impressions, and then we'll discuss more in detail. Like, did you like it? Did you not? Kind of a thing. I'm going to go counterclockwise for me on my screen. So Pete, you're first.
I really, really, really like this.
Okay.
My general impression is that it's a little bit WandaVision and a little bit Falcon and Winter Soldier. I've got the mystery of WandaVision, but I've already got a little bit of action that's done pretty well, like Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Okay.
And yeah, and then we can talk specifics.
Oh yeah, we'll talk specifics for
So
sure.
yeah, move on. I love it.
Cool.
So far, one
Kevin.
episode, I think it's great.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat. I really like it, but I think anything that's driven by Tom Hiddleston, I'm probably going to like anyways.
Sure.
Just kind of how it goes. But I like Owen Wilson. He's been fun, and then some of the little gimmicks and stuff in there in the old TVA have been really neat. So,
just as a quick aside, and David, I will get to you in a second, because you just reminded me of it by saying Owen Wilson. They are now apparently writing a script for Wedding Crashers 2.
Yes.
With Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn again, which I was like, fuck yes. Wedding Crashers is one of my favorite comedies of all time. So that's really
it's
exciting.
pretty awesome. But also, speaking of Owen Wilson, I read that he had not seen a single MCU movie before signing on to do Loki.
Sure, why
He
not?
had no idea. No idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Like in
is
his
anyone
role.
tapping their fingers or their feet or something. The noise stopped. There was like a rhythmic.
It might have been me. I have RLS.
Oh, gotcha.
So
I'm the same way. My leg is not sitting still right now.
yeah, I was like I didn't think that would affect it because I was like, I'm not touching the desk itself, but I guess I have such thunderous thighs that they were shaking everything. David, what do you think?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I don't have quite the Tom love that everyone else does. I don't have a problem with him, but I'm not going to see something just because he's doing it. But I thought it was great. I was way better than I expected it to be, and
Okay.
And I'm really looking forward to seeing what they do next.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I echo everyone else more or less. I enjoyed myself. It was different and weird and trippy enough to feel new, but it still had that Marvel undertone where it was fun, and there was, you know, sort of the quick gag from time to time that you get in these Marvel projects, and all the acting was super solid, and it's going to be really interesting to see where they go from here. I read that Feige said this show, more than Wanda and Falcon and Winter Soldier, is going to not both rely on and more heavily affect like the current and past MCU. So this one will connect in more interesting ways, apparently.
I don't find that surprising. I mean,
I don't either.
Themselves up to do all kinds of fun stuff with this show.
Yeah, for sure. It definitely set up some interesting, like Infinity Stones being paperweights and stuff like that.
Was hilarious.
Like, what the fuck?
So when he opens the drawer and they're all there. Well,
yeah.
There was actually a meme that I caught, and before I watched it, which was a little disappointing, but it talks about what's the Squidward dude from Endgame.
I saw it.
But when he's talking about like, no one's held one Infinity Stone, let alone two.
Yeah.
And then it shows the picture of the dude because he's got like
he's just smiling.
While Randall, he's got 20 in a drawer.
I've seen that meme. I was actually, that scene specifically, I kind of got upset at first because up to that point, no one has been able to physically hold a time stone. The time stone has always floated between your fingers, like kind of in the middle, like this. Right. And someone picked it up and I was like, wait. And then I thought to myself, I was like, oh, those aren't active. Like they're out of their timeline. They don't do anything anymore. They're literally just colorful rocks at this point.
Yeah.
So I got a little more okay with it. But at first I was like, foul. Like, no, cry nerd. Like I
thought
I got
the
really
same
mad.
thing too, even with the Tesseract. Like everyone was just handing it around like it was just like this toy. And you were just like, oh wow, that's like like, you know, they say you have to be a pretty powerful being to be able to withhold. Jesus Christ, I can't speak. To hold one, right?
And to handle it.
And every single person seemed able to do that. You were like, oh, geez, this is a real powerful race. If like just you know, random guy over there can pick it up, janitor. Here, take this, go dispose of it. You know.
I thought that was an interesting twist.
And I think that's what's so cool, leading us then into the Eternals and the next phase of the MCU, because that little moment and that segment and Loki's realizations, like every time Tom Hiddleston has a revelation in this episode, it's so cool because you get the same ones with him, because all of a sudden it's like, oh fuck, we spent 10 years and all sorts of emotional toil on these Infinity Stones being this huge, horrible, powerful thing, and all of a sudden in like a 15-second shot, it's like, oh no, this whole little group here, way more powerful than all that bullshit that you just invested all that time.
This is like, it. Like how can anyone be more than this? As it almost feels like at this point, it's like they literally just hand Infinity Stones off as the joke they made paperweights, but just everything so nonchalantly. And I'm just like, I can't, like they evaporate that guy with that baton like it's nothing. I'm just like, who's more than this? You know, like this seems like it, but you know, with Marvel, they'll figure something out. Let's talk about did everyone like Tom? Everyone thought he did it pretty good.
He killed it because he went back to old Loki
and he did it perfectly, like stepped into it like it was the same Loki he had been in, and you know, in the last 3 movies that he was in. It was like it hadn't changed at all. Like they pick up the timeline and his timeline and he goes, and he was perfect. Absolutely perfect.
Okay, cool.
The parts when he watches his mom die, and
that was my favorite part.
Flashback thing, that whole emotional thing, and when he watches his own death, like again, that was one of those revelatory moments that you watch that you're just like, oh shit, like this guy just realizes like this is it. Like I can't go back to my timeline. I can't, like.
I wonder how that's going to affect him and his character arc moving forward, because basically he just got half a dozen years of his life jammed into his head in 45 seconds, and it's not something that he experienced, but he kind of at least now knows like his trajectory. Like he was kind of going to stop being so much of a dick, and he was going to try to help, and he was going to ultimately, you know, try to sacrifice himself for his brother, who he probably was still. I mean, at that time, he hated Thor. You know, Thor was taking him back to Asgard. So it is going to be. I hope they do something with that. They don't just say like, you've seen all your stuff now, and that's all we're going to do with it, and now you're just going to move forward. Like I hope it kind of comes back from time to time, and it's a way for his character to grow, but grow a little differently. Like that's my hope for the show.
Speaking of him hating Thor, I did love that it opened with that scene where he did his
Steve
Captain
Rogers
America.
impression.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, that was fun.
I love the little DB Cooper.
Yes,
Thing that
I love that he is DB Cooper.
As soon as it started, I was like, "Oh my god, he's DB Cooper!"
Yeah.
And then I had to like give a brief explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I did the same thing. I was like, but well, because I watched it before I watched it with my daughter, so I got to go. Okay, before we start this episode, I'm going to tell you a little story about a guy named DB Cooper, just so you get a joke that's fucking phenomenal. About 15 minutes into this show.
Yeah, I think people kind of figured that one out from the trailers too.
Yeah.
Like we kind of knew that one was coming. Which
I didn't watch any of the trailers, so I went
good.
whole like super blind. I didn't know about the time thing, or I had no idea where the direction of this show was going. So
okay, that must be nice.
My daughter and I were like super pleasantly surprised when we got in it. We were both like, "Yeah, I'm in. This is great."
Yeah,
cool. Yeah, there's obviously not a ton to talk about yet. There's only been one episode, and as time goes on, we'll get into more details. But there is a persistent rumor, which I actually thought about as well at the end of the episode before even hearing that this was even a rumor, because I watched some of the trailers, but I didn't like read too much about the show before it came out, because they were saying at the end of the spoilers. I mean, if you we kind of spoiled half the episode. Yeah. At the end of the episode, Owen Wilson tasks him with hunting down himself, essentially, that Loki is the rogue entity running around the multiverse doing all this bad shit. There's a rumor that, and I kind of got this impression just from the silhouette that was at the end. I was like, that doesn't really, I know it's vague, but I feel like that's not Tom Hiddleston. There's a rumor that might be Lady Loki.
Yes.
Which would be really exciting. We'll see. We speculated a lot of shit in WandaVision that wasn't true, and heard a lot of shit.
His ID, I think it's in the credits, so it rolls through.
It's in the credits when you see his. I stopped it. It's when you see his file.
Gender is listed as fluid.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I've seen that pop up a bunch on articles because that's all the rage these days, talking about that kind of stuff. So Loki's gender fluid and everything like that. So it's like, I wonder why they are specifically talking about that.
They have very quietly introduced a handful of characters that are from the Young Avengers.
Yeah.
And I think it's Kid Loki or something like that as one of the Young Avengers. So, I mean, they could, again, be just very gently pushing towards that, because that's been rumored for a while that they were going to go that route at some point in this phase with the MCU and do the Young Avengers. Because they've introduced Patriot already in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Wanda's kids. So I mean, they're really going that way. And I read a thing today.
And Tony's daughter, Tony and Pepper's daughter as well.
Yeah. And then today
Hawkeye's daughter as well.
Not Kate Hawkeye's Bishop. Daughter, but Kate Bishop. She'll be in Hawkeye. And then today I read that in the She-Hulk series. And I reposted this on our stuff that they're going to introduce the Hulk's son.
Yeah.
No. The Hulk's son.
The Hulk's son. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scar or.
Yeah. Yes, with two A's. Skaar. And Jamila is going to be Titania in She-Hulk. So we'll see how that goes. I like her.
I'm actually looking forward to that, even with the little bits that we've gotten, because it's supposed to play almost like a buddy comedy, like action comedy movie, and
it'll be interesting. I watched Tatiana Maslany's show just a little while ago. Black,
the clone one, right?
I already forgot the name of it.
Orphan Black.
There you go. And she's great. Like when they cast her as She-Hulk, I was stoked. Like she's talented.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm actually really stoked for that show. I think it's gonna be pretty cool.
I love how Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, and I think they're gonna bring Banner in quite a bit too.
Yeah.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Well, I think they have to because I mean he's the whole reason she's She-Hulk.
I'm wondering how they're gonna solve his whole he's the Hulk and Banner all the time now, and his fucked up arm from using the stones. Like how they're gonna get around that. Is he gonna just be Hulk Banner forever now, or is he gonna find a way to kind of switch back and forth again? It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
The most interesting little like Easter eggy rumor that I saw was the Peggy Carter sighting.
Yeah, she supposedly pops up in this episode of Loki somewhere.
Yeah,
in the
there's
background,
really?
but I didn't.
Yeah,
notice it.
So if you go back and watch, there's a scene when
Did you see her?
Yeah, because I went back to find it
Okay.
after I read the rumor. It's one of the scenes where it's right after what's her face gets the collar put on her and she's in the hallway, and Eugene, the guy with the things there, he's walking with the two people. One of those little portal gateways opens in the background, and a variant is pushed out by one of the Minutemen, and it looks, the silhouette and kind of from a distance, very Peggy Carter, like the hair, the build, the whole thing. So there is build? Yeah. Well, no, at the build, not the build, but the build. Uh-huh. She's an incredibly shapely woman. Haley Atwell has like that bottle. Like she's born to be a pinup. Like that casting of her as Agent Carter is perfect because she looks like she could have been painted on the side of one of the fucking planes.
Yeah, they did a really good job with her.
It's just amazing. And so it's interesting how that may tie into something, because there's always been that, like, you know, one of the things that fans have been asking for is, since we're doing these Marvel TV shows, let's do Captain America returning the Infinity Stones.
Sure.
You know, as a show, even just a couple episodes. I think that would be fun.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how they got away with that in Endgame. When they just did that for like a few hours, and Loki did this in the 1 second later, they were on him like, "Hey, you shouldn't do this." Like, I know they explained it away with like, that was supposed to happen, and I was just like, okay, all right then. That sounds like lazy writing, but sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, whatever.
Yes, it is a little lazy, but but the problem is, even though it's lazy writing, none of it's possible without that precept. That this whole timeline that the time guys are doing is this whole destined timeline, and so when one breaks off, you have to. So you know, the concept flows that all the breaking and going back and forth that they're supposed to do is predetermined and predestined. They knew it was going to happen. So
and also they fix it. They fix it, like their plan always is to fix it themselves. Yeah. So that makes it less than Loki just being like, "I'm the fuck out," and then I'm going to go to some other random timeline or universe.
Exactly. It's like Loki says, you know, when he says, how have I never heard of you? And he goes, well, you've never had to yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it.
I just love how arrogant he is when he gets there.
Oh, yes.
You know, he's just like, I'm fucking Loki. What do you think you're doing? And especially when he's in court and he's like, and then nothing happens.
Yeah. That one person's like, what is
he like, wait a minute.
I thought that I do enjoy Tom a lot. I thought it did take him a little bit of time to get back into the old Loki spin of things. Mm-hmm. Some of it didn't land earlier in the episode for me, when he was supposed to be like post Avengers 1 Loki.
Right.
But he came around for me a lot by the end, especially after watching all the scenes of his life and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I said, because that changed him so much in such a short amount of time.
And that was the interesting part to me, because that almost, like, it didn't bother me, but that's the only thing that I really had to buy into in the end, was that he, in that, you know, this 45-minute segment that we've just watched, basically goes through all the character transformation that Loki did over the course of like 4 movies.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if that's the case. That's
true.
That's what I'm curious about, is that in some of the trailers, which I know David hasn't watched, I won't say too much, but he looks like he's still being a little mischievous from time to time. Yeah. So that's why I'm just like, we'll see if it really changed him all that much.
Owen Wilson comment was
So I was really curious. I wanted to see what everyone's opinion was, whether or not he changed. I don't think he changed at all. I think he is full on straight up evil Loki, and that what he saw with the Infinity Stones was, this is the place I should really be focusing my efforts on conquering. So I think he's going to play nice until he can find his moment. I think it's a lot like the Collector in Ragnarok, right? Where he like finds his way into favor, and it's like whole time is there to fucking stab him in the back as soon as he can. I think Loki's still going to do that.
I fall somewhere on the, I don't know if he's thinking like, oh, I can rule this place and rule everything. I think he realizes is that it's like way beyond him. I think he's more like, I definitely agree that he's playing nice. I think he's playing nice until he can get the fuck out. Like he can try to find a way to escape. But yeah, we'll see kind of what he's.
Well, I think in that transformation, so he's watching all the videos, he sees all these things happen that would affect him. I think.
Well, they did, like for sure, like his mom especially.
I think him seeing himself died though, like kind of reset that a little bit, and he was like, "Well, fuck it, I'm gonna die, and I'm gonna die soon. So why not be as Loki can be? Well, I've got the time to do it."
Which would be interesting because even he knows he can't go back to his own timeline. So I kind of took it as just like resignation that like, well, if I have a choice, they're either going to reset me or whatever the hell they call it, where I get turned to a puddle of goo, or can do this and live for a little bit longer.
And plus, if he doesn't go back to his timeline, his mom doesn't die because that was his fault. Odin doesn't necessarily die the way that he dies.
Yeah.
Because that was at least a little bit.
I mean, yes and no.
Him to send him into exile.
Yeah. All that stuff has already happened in that timeline. And now he's like created an emergent one. So this is like a whole new game. Like we don't even know what can happen.
But he could really never return to his timeline regardless, because branched, like he created his own and they yanked him out. They nuked his timeline. Like that shit was gone. That was clipped. And so now he's left to homeless.
I really liked that scene where right after he died and the ship exploded, like the film reel came out.
And end of file.
Yeah. I was like, oh, that was cool. Nice touch.
I think somebody said too that on the film, if you can pause it to the right spot, it actually says like E616, which is Earth 616 is the MCU.
I saw some writing, but I couldn't make it out. Yeah, that's cool.
Sacred timeline.
Yeah, man. Loki's was really cool. I'm excited to see more.
Yeah, I'm genuinely excited for the next one. Like I want more now.
Yeah. Because it came out on Wednesday, like we didn't watch it, I think, until Friday. Because we didn't totally had forgotten.
Yeah.
And so it was like, oh shit, Loki's out. Oh, okay. So then we made time to watch it. And both my daughter and I were like really blown away. And she was not overly impressed with either of the two shows when they started, WandaVision or Falcon Winter Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan by the end, but the first episodes of both of those did not wow her. And this one, she was just like, oh, hell yeah, I'm in. So
cool. Yeah, it definitely seems the most exciting, the quickest.
Yeah.
There's just shit going on right away. You're like, okay, here we go. We're in it.
And I think they were also incredibly smart starting it off with clips from the films. Like the way it worked in Endgame. Like, you know what? This is where it happened. We're gonna show you this minute and 30 seconds.
Yeah.
So that you remember exactly where it is and what happened. Because we're gonna show you that this is happening right now. After it happened.
And it did, to Feige's statement, it did really make it feel more connected to the MCU as a whole. Like starting just like that, having the scenes of all those different MCU movies that Loki's been a part of that he was watching for the first time is just like, this definitely feels bigger and grander and more connected. And I'm all here for it. Tom Hiddleston's awesome. And I'm excited to see more. Any closing thoughts on Loki?
No,
I want more.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
Like I'm hoping they have said Loki is the one that doesn't have an expiration date. Like we know there was only one WandaVision season. We know there's only one Falcon and Winter Soldier, but they have come out and said Loki is open-ended. We don't know. There could be season 2.
Yeah, for
they
him.
said there's two. They've
Yeah,
they have said that there's going to be 2.
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
announced before WandaVision even aired.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. I just completely missed that. That's
Loki
awesome.
was the only show that they gave a season 2 to up until that point. Like no one else had a
Well,
second season.
He's a free agent at this point. Like he's
Yeah.
not really connected to the timeline anymore. So he can just go around through all different eras, fixing anomalies with Owen Wilson for like 10 seasons. But I don't know. I don't want
Or
that
breaking
many.
shit, like it could
Or
turn
breaking
into them
shit.
chasing him.
Yeah.
Especially if they only do
Um,
like 8 episodes a season, right?
Yeah.
They don't need to do huge seasons. You just do a couple episodes, you make a little difference, and then they're like, okay, where do we need to steer the ship next year? Let's throw it Loki.
Yeah, they
I
have a
think
lot of
that's what
flexibility.
you wanted to do with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it just never landed.
Yeah, unfortunately,
They were a
it's
little
spun out
too
of control.
separated in that one though.
Yeah, they did at first. The first like 3 seasons.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was good.
reference the
Yeah.
movies very well.
Well, when
And then it does just diverge, and you're not 100% sure if they actually are still in like the same.
But that's because they never got the audience, right? They never got what they wanted, so they weren't going to be able to direct the flow of the storytelling through that show. That's when they finally just kind of broke off and did their own thing. They realized it just wasn't going to happen.
Yeah,
that show was definitely at its strongest right after Captain America and the Winter Soldier happened.
Yeah.
When the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D.
All
it was
the
like,
Hydra-
that
yes.
show was so good.
Yeah.
all that
Yeah.
Hydra stuff in
Yeah.
there was just so cool.
And then it just sort of fell off a cliff. But what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else, guys, or are we gonna call it early?
I can't really think of it. I think we're still got an hour and 40 minutes put in.
Yeah, almost 2 hours. It's
Bad
not
boy.
bad. It's not bad.
That's where we should be.
Actually, yeah,
That's
missing,
correct.
Missing a
Yeah.
person it makes sense.
Yeah, that's correct. That is what we
I was
should
going to
do.
say too, though. Speaking of Falcon and Winter Soldier, Anthony Mackie said recently that he's really hoping to play Captain America for another like 8.
Yeah, he said
10 years,
6 to
so-
8 years or whatever it was.
Yeah,
Which means
Which
he
is
just
cool,
signed a
cool,
contract for 6 to 8 movies, I'm sure. or
Right.
something like that.
He's a smart man. He knows that if he makes those 6 to 8 more years of Marvel films, that he can that's generational wealth, right? Like he's
Yeah.
got points coming
He's
in
set.
off a
Oh,
$1
yeah.
billion franchise.
Yeah, that's
that dude-
friends money.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, no
Yeah.
shit.
yeah.
As,
And
as
I mean,
Captain
it was
America,
cool
because it's
because
Yes.
he introduced Captain America at the opening of the Avengers compound.
Yes, yeah.
and it's his Captain America. It's Sam
It
Wilson's
looked pretty
Captain
good
America.
too. The guy that they had
Yeah.
for opening.
Yeah, it didn't
day,
look bad.
He looked good.
The headpiece still looked horrible, but the suit was
Well,
nice.
yeah.
what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
Dude,
And they
Let's
have
see,
the
so-
animatronic Spider-Man that flies through the
Yes.
air. That's pretty dope.
Yeah. Oh boy.
you can't see that from your apartment, can you?
No, he doesn't go quite high enough.
Yeah.
If they jumped him
That's
off of
disappointing.
Tower of Terror, I'd be able to see it
You'd be
because I
able
can
to
see
see
that
it.
from my apartment.
Yeah.
Or
Christmas.
Guardians of the Galaxy, whatever they call it these days.
Yeah.
We still always call it Tower of Terror. Even,
It's forever Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right then.
Well, cool
This has
guys.
been fun. We made it through a show without Opie.
We've
Yeah,
done
we
it
don't need it.
before.
We don't need him. He's off the show. Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
tell you guys.
Did he quit?
He's
You're
not
off
going to listen to this anyway, so we can
I
say
know.
whatever
So
we
it won't
want.
matter.
whatever we want. Yeah.
Opie, you suck.
Yeah.
Not really. Don't be mad at me, please.
And
He's
that's how
already-
Pete left the show.
He's already mad at you for no reason
I
whatsoever.
know.
So
Yeah,
don't
that's
worry
true.
about it. Well, thanks everyone for listening, and hopefully we'll see you again next week. Hopefully we'll see each other again next week. So far, I
Yeah.
think we're all on schedule.
Yeah.
Yep.
Opie won't be here again. He's attending like 9 weddings or something. I don't really know the details.
It's like
but
one
he's-
wedding that's like 7 days long.
Yeah,
4
something
weddings
like
and a
I don't know
funeral.
what the fuck it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gone for a
The
while.
other side of the country, even.
So if
Yeah.
you come to this show for him, skip next week. If you made it this far, because if you're on the show for him, you probably didn't, so you won't get this message. So see you next week.
Or you were
Uh,
used up to this point.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Is he coming
They're
on?
just waiting for him to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, why isn't he? When does
He
show
must
up?
be late. He must be out walking the dog.
Wayo.
Furiously walking the dog.
Furiously. All right. Well, enough of that. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
So that would actually be better. That's a better life.
Alex, have you ever taken a Myers-Briggs test? You know, you're like an INFJ.
Myers-Briggs?
Personality test thing.
Yeah, it's a personality test like ENFP, INFP.
I got a buddy.
You guys are
who's really
speaking a different language to me right now.
I don't understand it much either. I just have a
Take to back to Barack to.
People use it to determine who they're compatible to be friends with and other weird shit.
Oh, I don't want to know that. I'll get 0 people to be compatible with, and I'll just jump off a roof.
No, that's what the interesting part about
The
it.
theory behind it is that if you know, it tells you how you communicate and how other people communicate. So if you know that somebody is this and you're this, you know that you guys can communicate in a certain way easier.
I like
workplaces
it.
will use it a lot.
Yeah, I think it's fun when people do it to see like how accurate it is to like your personality when you do it. It's funny to see that, and it's for the most
It's the new
part,
horoscope, dude. It's the new horoscope.
in a way.
Oh,
yeah.
well, you just told me that I'm not going to do it because that stuff's malarkey. So,
What are you talking about?
Such a Virgo.
I know. Such a Capricorn thing to say.
Such a Capricorn. You're such a tool. All right, I'm going to bed.
All right, man.
You should.
Good night, gentlemen.